What strange thing did you find out about someone else that they thought was perfectly normal? My husband had no idea he was lactose intolerant. He thought everyone had diarrhea every day. He's 26 and found out last year. How'd he find out? His mom told him. She's known his whole life. My sister said to me once, "Hey, what dream did you choose last night?" I was so confused. She explained that every night she goes into a dream room and picks what she wants to dream about. I got super jealous. That would be the best. You can do some exercises that are supposed to help you have more control over your dreams, but it's never worked for me. My boyfriend of almost 8 years thought lions were boys and tigers were girl lions. Kind of like bulls and cows. My friend can't recognize faces. I only figured it out for sure when he almost got into a stranger's truck because he thought it was me because she had red hair. I've known him for like 6 years. He seemed surprised when I said that wasn't normal. Face blindness. This one is about me. In my early 20s I started having a lot of pain in my upper left jaw. My dentist said there was nothing wrong with my teeth and that I should go see a sinus specialist. I get to the oral, ear, nose and throat doctor, and they comment on how stuffed up I must be. I'm slightly baffled and say that I'm actually breathing much easier that day than usual. And that was the day I found out that most people can breathe through their noses most of the time and not just on special occasions. Turns out I'm allergic to dust mites and how have you not had anaphylaxis and died way, and had been experiencing an allergy attack for 23 straight years. The doctor's visit legitimately changed my life. I no longer had to choose between breathing and eating. My best friend recently told me that when he was little he thought the only way to clean his butthole was to jam the soap as far up as he could get it. Finally figured he was probably doing it wrong when he heard his mother scream at his dad, "Seth, the soap smells like crap. Did you shove it up your butt or something?" I still tease him about that to this day. I had a sleepover with a friend in middle school one weekend. I went to shower and she gave me a towel. It had a weird smell to it, but I couldn't find any other towels inside the bathroom, so I used it by patting myself barely and just air drying. Turns out her whole family shares a towel to prevent having to use new ones every time. I told her how weird that was and she was shocked to find out that my family has their own towels to use, but we put them in the wash every 2 or so uses. I didn't sleep over there again. In college, a bunch of friends and I were sitting around talking about things we did as a kid. One of the guys in the group said, "Didn't you hate when you got a cold and your mom would give you an enema?" He soon found out that he was the only one. What? Senior year, study hall. I'm sitting with a dude I knew. I don't remember the context, but we were talking about growing up and he says, and it was around that time when milk started coming out of my nipples, and I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "You know, when milk starts to come out," and I'm like, "Dude, that's not normal." The face he made when he realized the reality of the situation was memorable. He goes, that didn't happen to you?" And I'm like, "Number." Then he asks the rest of the guys in study hall, "Did any of y'all have milk come out your nips during puberty?" They said no. Honestly, if I squeezed my nipples hard enough in my teenage years, something resembling milk would exude out. I remember when I did this my friends were all like, "WTF?" and then it became a joke. I couldn't do it all the time and would have to wait a couple of days for it to recharge. I am 23 now, but I'm going to go home soon and see if I can still do it. In grade 5, our teacher was running a discussion about words and why it's important to choose the right words to express yourself during writing assignments. He asked what some of our least favorite words were and why, so we could expand our vocabularies. We're all taking turns until it gets to be my friend Paige's turn. She gives her favorite word and explains it's her favorite because of how sweet it is. We all just assumed she meant how nice it was. She then gives her least favorite word, explaining she hates how sour it is. At this point, the class is looking at each other going, "She just said sour, right?" Turns out she has a type of synesthesia, which is a rare condition that causes a person to taste certain tastes when speaking or even thinking certain words. She had lived her whole life thinking it was completely normal to taste words, because it's such a unique and strange thing that nobody would ever talk about it being a condition. She had tests done later that year, and there were actual chemical changes in her brain and saliva when certain words were said. pretty fascinating. For people who are curious as to what her least favorite words were, I contacted her to ask. She believes her favorite word at the time was cradle, as she still finds it very sweet. Her least favorite word was definitely harmonica, as it is so sour she can feel her tongue cramping in the back of her mouth. Since then, she's discovered her love of the word chartreuse, which is a color. She said it's a rich, chocolatey vanilla, almost like a Linda chocolate. She didn't realize until she tried wine in high school that she was tasting wine every time she said Guinea, but only when she's referring to the animal. She said her least favorite word is definitely still harmonica, but funnily she also never liked her own name, as she would compare the taste to kale, or some other dry, bitter lettuce. I had to explain to one of my friends in high school that not everyone's whole family has physical relations with them. This girl was 17 and was freaking both her brothers, in their 20s, her dad, her uncle and her grandfather. I told the school counselor and she was taken out of that house, and basically her entire family was arrested for either freaking a minor, debauchery, child abuse and a whole heap of other charges. She just thought that's what families do. This is one of the saddest things I've read. I'm so glad she had a friend like you and hope she'll be able to get past that. This is a story about me. Actually, my mom has been a drug addict my whole life. When I was little, I was attached to her hip. I went everywhere with her. When we'd go to other people's houses, she'd go through their cabinets, drawers, etc. She'd just say she was being nosy. What she was actually doing was looking for medications to steal. Fast forward a few years, I'm at my best friend's house. She went out of her room for a few minutes and I got curious, so I started going through one of her drawers. She came back in and asked me what I was doing. I remember saying nothing, I'm just being nosy. She then explained to me that it is not okay to go through other people's belongings. I honestly just thought it was something everyone does. I told my dad this story a couple of years ago and he was so angry, he had no idea. Knew a dude who'd pee in an empty shampoo bottle in the shower and then he'd dump it on his feet. He also zip tied his pants shut when he slept so he wouldn't beat his meat in his sleep. Apparently it happened a few times. Anyway, weirdest dude I ever met. Glad I'm not really acquainted with him anymore. Not going to condone his actions, but urine contains uric acid, which is a very effective treatment for athlete's foot. This was me until about 2 years ago. I thought that kiwis made everyone's mouth itchy, like it was just part of the fruit experience. I also thought mangoes were hot for everyone. Well, my wife informed me that I'm probably allergic to those fruits since mangoes aren't supposed to burn your mouth and kiwis shouldn't make your mouth itch. I truly didn't believe her. Months later I'm choking on mango. I can't breathe, my face is getting red. I couldn't even get the word put to tell her I couldn't breathe. EpiPen and in a visit later. I'm allergic to mangoes and kiwis and a host of other tropical fruit. No fruit should make your mouth burn, aside from the jalapeno and peppers. And no fruit should make your mouth itch or lips swell. Apparently that's called an allergy. Oops. You really need to listen to your wife more. So this was actually me, but growing up my mom would always tell me to grab donuts from the Walmart bakery area and eat it while we walked around the store. We lived in the country so we only went to the store every 2 weeks. For a long time this proceeded until it was common practice and eventually I just did it without even telling her. Around early middle school a girl who has a crush on me sees me eating a donut in Walmart and asks me if I just take those. I respond of course. She proceeds to take one and eat it with me to prove she's as cool as me, but I just don't understand. I then relate to my mom how this silly girl had no idea Walmart had free donuts, and that's when she told me she had been paying for them for years. But I had not asked her permission for a long time, so there is no telling how many donuts I unknowingly stole from Walmart. It's not very often you get to find something strange out about yourself that you thought was perfectly normal. Stop right there, criminal scum. Not a friend, but something I didn't find out until my wife pointed it out. I thought it was completely normal for your eyes to unfocus naturally when you're tired. 7-year-old me remembers reading late into the night and having to cover one eye, and then switch eyes, in order to keep reading. Fast forward to being married, my wife offhandedly mentions sometimes she doesn't know which eye to look at while talking to each other. It turns out biocular diplopia is a thing. and the fix for it is to cut your eye muscles up and stitch them back on in a better alignment. So a lot of people have said, isn't this normal if it happens only late at night? You're fine. If it happens during the day, or all the time, or you've gotten used to seeing double and just letting one eye wander off and do whatever, they do make glasses to that'll realign each eye so the dominant eye doesn't have to work as hard, and you'll regain a lot of your depth perception. Apparently I am not the only one. Talk to your eye doctor about this, folks, and ask them to test for amblyopia or strabismus. Prism glasses or surgery might be able to help you. All of these responses have convinced me to get prism glasses once my HSA refills, unless you'll know someone that does them cheap. What the frick? This happens to me. My optometrist said it's super normal for eyes to go out of focus when you're incredibly tired. It's a biological way to force yourself to go to sleep, since you can't focus. You're unable to do things, leaving you with one thing left to do: sleep. My ex didn't think you needed to wash cutting boards. I was doing his dishes and started to wash it and he got upset. I thought that was a common sense thing that someone in med school should know. I lived with a girl that would eat baby powder that she had stashed in the drawer of the bathroom. She would walk by the bathroom and do quick shakes of the bottle right in her mouth. She would also buy whole frozen fish from Walmart and take them out of the freezer bag and slap them hard against the brick kitchen floor before cooking them in a stew. That's a witch. My roommate in college thought you washed clothes on every single cycle on the washing machine. Our machine had a delicate cycle, a cotton cycle, a solo rinse cycle, a permanent press cycle, etc. He always complained about the washer taking forever. It's because he was washing his clothes 4-5 times every time he did laundry. Good lord, water bills for days. My friend thought that everyone was regularly taking worming tablets to stop getting worms. It wasn't until she got married and told her husband she was going to go pick up their worming tablets that she found out it wasn't normal. Depends where in the world you live, and how sanitary your surroundings are, I guess. My family has always had pets and we live in Africa, so my mom would buy dewormers twice a year, and deworm the pets at the same time. If I travel to any tropical countries, I usually deworm on my return as I eat street food. A family member thought that hallucinations were something everyone dealt with. They thought that monsters under the bed and other cultural tales of ghosts were real things, which were further confirmed by their experience. This led to later diagnosis of schizophrenia once they couldn't cope well enough to deal with the symptoms and it became evident to family members. I know a guy for whom it started with a picture of Mona Lisa talking to him. She would tell him all sorts of terrible things. Only when he got completely sober and it persisted, he went to see a doctor, got diagnosed and all, but never got rid of the picture. At that point he got used to her, plus her threats were terrifying. A co-worker, mid-20s, Midwest born and raised, sat down with spaghetti one day for lunch. After twiddling the noodles around with the fork for a while, he looked at me and asked, "How do you eat this?" Thinking it was a joke, I laughed at him and kept eating. He looked at me with a straight face and said, "I've never had spaghetti. Life is amazing." Our job had a cafeteria with different options. This co-worker normally got the same thing every day, burger and fries, and I didn't think anything of it. I'm actually impressed that he just asked you and didn't shy away from it. Good on him. My friend started talking about how he'd just sometimes randomly lactate like it was the most casual topic of conversation. One of my friends genuinely cannot taste basil. He always thought that basil was some tasteless leaf that people like to put on pizza. He once ate bowl of basil leaves like a salad. OMG. Not kidding, I did not know basil has a taste to it. I have eaten that stuff like your friend. I just put dressing on it and eat it. A randomly paired suitemate my sophomore year of college. He took the bus from wherever he lives. I never talked to him, he was a really weird kid. And I guess on the way from his house, he forgot to grab his bags off one of the buses. In said bags were an assortment of things including his towels. Now any normal person would simply go get more towels, right? Not this guy. He found it perfectly natural to get out of the shower. While still soaking wet, he would put on his boxer briefs, get into his bed and let himself air dry. He did this every day he was there, and when he moved out the rest of us walked over to the mattress and sure enough there was a large, green, human-sized circle from where he had been laying all year. I knew a guy who drip dried. He seemed to think it was normal. He would immediately get dressed after showering, then just be damp until he wasn't. So gross. My ex-husband has reflux really bad. Once I saw him chewing something while we were out shopping, and so I asked for a piece of what I thought was gum. Nope, it was food that we had eaten about an hour earlier. He told me his food would always come back up all the time and he would just re-chew it and swallow it back down. I was like, WTF, NOOO. So, you married a cow. It's spelled MOOO, not NOOO. I have a friend who has lost an immense amount of weight, yet eats and drinks like crap all the time. It had been revealed to me by him that he often feels so full sometimes that he just makes himself puke to feel better. This has been going on for quite a few years now. He's straight up bulimic and thinks it's just a neat little way to get rid of all the bad foods and drinks he gorges himself with. He's gotten so good at making himself puke. It's almost silent. No gagging sounds, no messy puke splatter. Just a stream of chewed up food and beers. I'm quite sure that even his wife is oblivious to this. That's horrible to hear. You should really consider trying to get your friend to see a therapist who specializes in eating disorders. I can only eat apples with both hands. I never noticed or thought anything of it until some co-workers pointed it out. I'm a big guy, so apparently I look like a squirrel eating an acorn. I still find it awkward to eat an apple with only one hand. My friend last night was like, you know when you think you're starting to get sick and you're super tired, your nose is runny, and your throat is phlegmy, and we're all like yeah, and she says, and then your hands go completely numb and we're all like, nope, that's definitely just you. She might be not oxygenating very well when she's sick. If I have a panic attack I don't breathe right and my hands, feet and face go numb. I had a friend whose parents would buy a gallon of whole milk and pour half the gallon in another jug, then mix water into both to dilute it. She always just thought that other people got a different brand of milk because drinking milk at a friend's house always tasted different. Her grandparents did it too. Really weirded me out when I saw her mom just pour milk into an empty jug and mixing water with it. I 100% guarantee you that their grandparents learned that in the Great Depression. My wife and I went down an internet rabbit hole and ended up listening to recordings of Le Pétomane, the French flatulist. I said something like, it would be cool to be able to suck air up your butt and just fart on command. And she was like, you can't do that. Turns out, she can relax everything and, like, breathe into and out of her butt. She said when she was a kid and had trouble sleeping, she'd just lay face down butt up and do it to relax. Anyway, seemed weird to me. Friend of mine will absent-mindedly start putting more and more of her shirt into her mouth until she chokes gags. She enjoys the feeling and does it while doing things like browsing Reddit or sitting on the toilet for a long time. A lot of people seem to think this is a chewing issue. I assure you, it's a gagging thing. Was kind of odd the first time I saw her do it so casually and she thought I was weird for not liking the feeling of almost puking. My twin used to shove a whole cotton tea towel into her mouth when she was going to sleep. Don't know if she still does it. Have not seen her for years. This happened to me. Growing up, I was conditioned by my mother to not only use soap on my body while showering, but to use it in my hair too. Doing this made my hair feel insanely rough and dry, but I kept at it thinking it was the right thing to do. On a trip to California to meet some friends I took a shower and they didn't have a bar of soap. I confronted my friend about it, asking what they used in their hair as a substitute for soap. Everyone in the room gave me a strange look and told me that soap wasn't supposed to be used for hair. I was around 18 years old when I found this out. My dad did this because he liked being fast. I'll blame it on a military life. We finally convinced him to use shampoo and conditioner. He's in love with how his hair feels. Goofy man. Now if I can convince him to stop brushing out his curls. One of my friends in college would clip his nails when he was out in public. One time he took the clippers out in a restaurant and the rest of us were like, WTF. Saw an old dude clipping his nails during a wedding ceremony while they were saying their vows, and all you could hear was them pledging their love to each other and a faint click, click, click. My dad's parents never told him to brush his teeth and he told me that he used to eat a whole can of condensed milk every day as a kid. He still thinks it's perfectly normal. I don't know. And he just wondered why one day his teeth fell out. Only when he was in his 20s someone told him that brushing helps. They carried a pizza box sideways under their arm. Bro, I'm so glad it made other people as uneasy as it made me. It was a neighbor at a neighborhood pizza party that was kinda strange already. Every time someone talks about him I'm like, I knew he was strange since the pizza box incident. Pizza shop employee here. People do this with some regularity and it is never not disturbing. My ex and her entire family share a toothbrush. She argued it like they were all sharing a hairbrush. Glad that ended. I had a friend with an extra tight foreskin. He couldn't expose his head and when girls tried to pull it back he thought it was because they weren't used to uncircumcised dongs. That's a medical condition called phimosis. I can't go to sleep unless the back of my left ankle is wedged between my right big toe and the second toe. I was 30 before someone asked about it. Oh my god, I'm not the only one. My friend was dating a guy who casually started talking about his dad doing stuff to him from a young age, asking if her parents were the same. She called the police. The dad spent 8 years in prison. Oh god, that's so sad. Good for your friend for helping him. My family was raised saying sweep the floor when referencing vacuuming. My husband was very confused when I asked him to sweep the floor. Like the kitchen? No, the living room. The carpet? Do you mean vacuum? I still say it because I grew up saying it. Now he's sarcastic about it. My college roommate thought it wasn't fricking if they didn't see M inside of you. We were 18. In college. And when I told her fricking was actually penetration, she got this horrified look on her face and I was so uncomfortable I had to leave the dorm room. So, for more background, the reason we had this discussion was I had been telling her I was a virgin. She was like, cool, so am I. Which made me raise my eyebrows, because the previous weekend she had brought a guy back to our very small dorm room and while I was 3 feet away from them had what sounded like fricking. So, I questioned her about it, like, what about last weekend? She said, oh, that wasn't fricking. He didn't finish inside of me. I really think her look of horror was because she truly thought she was a virgin, but it all became very clear to her in that moment she was mistaken. We remained friendly for the rest of our freshman year and she made a few jokes about it, but for the most part we didn't talk about our love lives ever again. I guess should have said fricking includes penetration, not fricking is penetration. It was in 2001 so I'm not exactly sure what I said, but it was along those lines. A friend of mine didn't know that after you insert a tampon, you pull out the applicator. Found this out in college after being dumbfounded why everyone preferred tampons over pads. She was walking around with that terrible piece of plastic up there all this time. I feel like that would really negatively affect their effectiveness. This is why you need to read instructions, people. Whenever I clean out my ears with Q-tips, it makes my throat tickle and feel like I have to cough. No, I don't shove it in super far. I thought this was completely normal until one day my sister was in the room with me while I was doing it and I mentioned how I hated cleaning out my ears because it makes my throat tickle and she was like, WTH are you talking about? Turns out there is this nerve in the face called the Arnold nerve that has no effect on the majority of the population, but in rare cases can feel sensitive and cause a coughing sensation. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.